Hey Prima friends, welcome to my little tiny dorm room here in South Korea. I haven't done one of these videos in a very long time. I think I'm just gonna get into your questions. I am enjoying the company here, and it's a big transition, but I signed my contract today. I'm officially principal dancer with the Universal Ballet, and I am still in like complete culture shock in a sense of I got so nervous yesterday when the director was like, look, I'm gonna call you in and we're gonna have a chat tomorrow. So I thought he was like, oh my god, he probably thinks I'm so bad, I'm so fat, like I'm not gonna be able to, like he's gonna like demote me or something. It was just like crazy irrational, like just nerves. And I came in and he could not be more nice and more like welcoming, and he just wanted to know how I was settling in, was I able to find food to eat, was I able to feel adjusted, start going to Korean night school. And it's just been a really interesting transition, and I'm really excited to work with my new teachers. I have a new coach from the Marinsky, and it's just wonderful to work with her and her husband every single day. And I'm currently working on Don Quixote and Le Corsaire for the gala, and I am free to guest when I need, as long as it doesn't interfere with my current performing schedule, which is so awesome. It's so incredible. There are a ton of questions from my last video, and that is super awesome. But most of them are about why I left the Kremlin and what I'm going to be doing here now in Seoul, Korea. One of the things that I want to address is I left the Kremlin Ballet actually on really good terms with the director. This year, the Kremlin Ballet had officially only around 25 performances in the actual Kremlin, and they're doing a lot of touring around China. And so we spoke with my director, and he actually said, I want to keep you on as a guest artist and call you in for performances as needed. Knowing their budget situation, I don't know if we're going to be able to figure out something. I would love to continue to work with them in some capacity, but I mean, they are very limited in terms of funding, and I think it's going to be more realistic for me to help guest with them when I'm in China or things like that. That being said, unfortunately, my wonderful coach, Shauna, was so upset that I wanted to leave, but she also understood that I needed to grow and I wasn't getting the opportunities that I needed to at Kremlin, and it just was sort of repeating the same cycle, and I had done it over and over again for 4 years, and their repertoire isn't growing, and they're just going through a lean time. I'm 23 years old, and I've just finished a big round of winning a lot of international competitions, so now is the time where I really need to focus on honing my technique and growing and gaining different roles, working with different artists. And I just felt like I was really stagnating at Kremlin, and there wasn't really much that could be offered to me. That being said, getting called in to do guest performances with them is a really good fit because I still have my Russian residency permit. I know a lot of you guys were asking me about that. I will still be doing a lot of guesting inside of Russia, and I'll be working with different companies there, so I'll be able to keep that. I've been able to, I'll be studying in the Moscow School of Choreography in the college program, so I will also keep my residency there, and I'll just be going back and forth. Right now, my goal for the next 3 months in Korea is to be able to get, not to be able to get fluent in Korean, because that's obviously impossible, but at least to be able to get around and to have basic conversation, and just kind of find my legs, put down a couple of roots here, and then I'll start to start training for Jackson competition and looking for different guesting opportunities, primarily based in Asia, and then go in May to Moscow to start the process for enrolling into the college program there in Moscow. So I hope that answers a couple of your questions about just basic logistics. How I got the job was a really funny story. I went in the beginning of the year because I did have problems in the end of the year with Kremlin due to the fact that I basically was really burnt out at the end of the season. And then Vadim Muntagirov called me to dance Don Quixote with him, and so I went to Australia to dance, getting permission from my director. And then there was a casting change at the last second, and that of course created a little bit of a misunderstanding that was cleared over when I came back in September, but it just felt like things weren't right, and I just really knew that I wasn't happy. And so I just decided that I would take some time to go and audition for different companies. And September is probably the worst time to go and audition for Western companies, because most of them have already done all their auditions and their spots are filled. But I just wanted to kind of go to the States and get a little feedback, like, because I'd spent most of my career in Russia and I didn't really know where I fit in and what are the kind of contracts that I could have potentially get. And I auditioned for a lot of different companies: Washington Ballet, Rbth, Boston Ballet, San Francisco, just a lot of things. And I got really, really good feedback, but just I didn't really feel like any of the companies really were what I was looking for, and I felt like I just hadn't really found the place where I really felt like I could grow. A lot of the companies, I love the cities where they're located in, and of course eventually I'd love to be able to guest with Rbth, I guess, or at least dance at the Metropolitan Opera one time in my career. But I feel like there's a lot of funding problems that face Western companies, and due to the lack of funding or the sole reliance on private funding, they're not able to do the kinds of programming that really is able to give opportunity to all of their dancers. And quite frankly, I think that a lot of dancers in the West suffer for that, because they don't get to perform as often as you would in, say, Russia or in China. And it was so funny. I was visiting my alma mater, Rbth Academy, in Washington, D.C., and saying hello to Beck, which maybe some of you guys remember him from the videos from Hong Kong. And he just mentioned in passing, he's like, "Oh, well, I sent some of your stuff to the director here." And I said, "Oh, well, that's nice," but I didn't really think twice about it. And then when I got to Washington, Mr. Bryan, he called me into his office and he said, "Hey, I don't think I can offer you a contract right now, but it's so great to meet you." And I said, "Oh, hi, first of all, my name's Joy. It's wonderful to meet you. I love what you're doing with the Rbth Academy, and I'm just really grateful to be an alumni from this school. I think it really helped me, and it prepared me to be able to live life by myself at such a young age in Russia." And he said, "Well, if you don't mind, could you speak to some of our students today?" And I said, "Yeah, I'd love to speak with them." And I didn't really mention to him that, I was in this process of job searching. I think that he had assumed that I was still, performing principal dancer with Kremlin, which I was. I was just doing a lot of guesting around. I just had let Beck know that I was really looking to change companies. And I gave a speech for some of the students at Rbth, and I just talked a lot about how it's really important to find your why, and it's really important to know what you want out of your career, and to think about your career in terms of a chess game, and you should prepare as much as you can, not only when you're playing the game, but outside of the game. And he then asked me after that speech to send him some links and to send him my updated CV, and I said, "Yeah, of course, I'd love to do that." And I didn't really think anything of it, and weeks go by. I finished up what I was doing in the States. I finished up seeing my family, and I went back to Russia, if we're honest, slightly deflated, and I just really was actually questioning God, like, "Lord, why would you send me on this kind of like wild goose chase to find a new place if where I'm supposed to be is Kremlin? And why is my heart so heavy?" And a lot of people say, "Oh, why, Joy, are you complaining about this? Getting a job is so hard." Being a professional ballet dancer is a really difficult choice of work, because you are not compensated for the amount of effort you put in. So if you're not happy, don't do it. There's so much BS out there saying like you should be a dancer if you train to be a dancer. No, go get an education, go do something where you can make a living and have a normal life, because ballet requires sacrifice. So yes, I have put in years in Russia, but I had gotten to a point where I just really was so unhappy, and it was personally too, because I had no life outside of the Kremlin. I had no, really deep relationships with anyone in the company besides Jana. And frankly, you should be in a workplace where the atmosphere is conducive to doing your art form. And Kremlin really is a special instance where they could. It's a wonderful company, and I'm grateful for everything I've gotten from it. But it was just an environment that I grew out of, and a lot of the girls are there because they don't have any other place to be, and I don't want to be the place where I spend the majority of my youth, the best kind of years of my physicality, to learn new things, to help me become a better dancer, in a place where everyone's just kind of clocking it in. And I came back to Russia with a heavy heart, and I opened up my email inbox, kind of just going through notifications as you do when you get off a plane, and I have this email from Mr. Liu, and I thought, what, this is so weird. And I opened it up, and it's like, "Hi Joy, I would like to invite you to become a new principal dancer with the Universal Ballet, and we'd love to have you next week." And it just blew my mind that somebody wanted me after all of these months of just trying to make it happen, and then hearing from Jana that I'm so ungrateful, and that I'm I'm the one that made you, and you could be nobody without my help. And yes, what she's saying is true, and I just went through this period of like feeling really unconfident, and really just sort of, in a sense, and I was almost sabotaged by her, because she refused to work with me after that, and then I went off to this guesting, and I just felt so out of shape, and just so and it just was such a wake-up call to me that I need to, instead of relying on the coaching of someone else, I need to coach myself, in a sense of I need to take more responsibility outside of dancing. And it was such a nice time to then negotiate with Brian when I would start with Universal Ballet, because I had already made commitments to working with Istanbul, to working with the company in Australia, to working with the company in Japan, and I felt really scared to leave a job without going straight into another company and environment. And I spoke a long time with my parents and with a couple of friends, and they said, look, start with Universal Ballet in the new year, the new season, because it'll be hard coming in, even though I wanted to come in for a nig, and they wanted me to join for a nig, and I was like, I want to dance at ballet. But I think I wasn't in the right headspace, and I'm so grateful that I let my dad convince me to. He said, go take these months, complete your obligations, you've given your word, and just join Universal Ballet in the next season. And it was such a wonderful time of self-discovery, and a time to rediscover why I love dancing. And I mean, going to Turkey just opened my heart in so many different ways, and being able to work with the different dancers there, and then to take that experience where they just basically loved on me and helped me get back to being in shape, and then to go from there just every other week performing, helped me work out kind of the reason why I was getting stage fright, and the reason why there were certain things going on, like things that I had kind of put underneath the bed 2 years ago and didn't really deal with them until working in competitions, and just performing is kind of like a muscle. So if you don't exercise that muscle, it gets weak. And so the more I performed, the more I felt more confident, and the more I really just realized that I cannot live without dancing, where I had gotten to a point at the end of last season where I was ready to walk away from it all, because it just got to a point where I didn't really understand why I was doing it, what it was that I loved about it. And now going into this year, I have clear goals for what I want to improve upon, what I want to do, and where I want to go with it. And that, having those goals and having a clear set plan for how I'm going to get there, I think is a much more healthy and a much more mature way to approach starting a new season with a new company. And it took me walking away from something that was my dream, which was working in Russia, to understanding that dreams can change and you as a person are allowed to evolve. And that's kind of the beautiful thing about being a dancer. And Russia will always be a part of myself, but I almost think that I need time away from Russia to become me, Joy Womack. Not Joy Womack, the first American to work in Russia, but Joy Womack, the dancer who cannot live without dancing. And I want to be my mission, not just, oh, I can make it in Russia. I want my mission to be, look, I want to encourage others to follow their passion, whether it is to travel, whether it is to teach, whether it is to study, whether it is to be in economics. The world is so much bigger than just one dream and one version of that dream. And so I hope this answers some of your questions, but I'm really, really looking forward to this time in Korea and what I can learn, how I can mature, and what are the things and the steps that I can take to become a happier, healthier, stronger version of myself, so that I can be in a position to inspire others from a genuine place. So I hope this answers some of your questions. I think that's where I'm going to end the video for today, but I will be making more videos because that is something that makes me feel confident, and I've been encouraged to do that. And one of the really fun things is they asked me when I first joined this company, it's like, what are some of the things that you like to do outside of dance? And they were really encouraging. They're like, go do that. That's something that makes you unique. And I'm going to be wary and careful about how I go around doing it, but most people here seem very open and very happy to be part of anything that goes online. And what I want to do is be able to promote the values of Universal Ballet, because I think that they really align with my personal values, and I just am looking for a way to make those things come together and do it in a nice and considerate way, and a way that's mutually beneficial for both parties involved. So if you have any questions, put them down in the comment section below. I'll be making more videos here live from Korea. I love you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for supporting me, continuing to support me on Patreon. And if you want to have a more in-depth question session where I answer your questions, I saw there's questions about like technique and turnout and questions about Bullshit Academy. I am part of a site called mentorly.com, and that's where you could get an hour session with me, and I go through all of your questions and we make a set plan of action. So you can join on Mentorly, you can support me on Patreon, you can check out if you guys want to do, I'll do a video going through my supplement regime, because supplements are so important if you want to be a healthy dancer, and you want to be a healthy dancer who's rehearsing and pushing, especially during competition season, during audition season. It's so important. I don't skip a day of supplements. Alright guys, I love you so much. I will see you next week for another video. Bye.